Anderson. I chose the movie Training Day. It's not only one of my favorite movies, but the plot line is all about police misconduct, corruption, and the power of abuse. The main character, played by Denzel Washington, is Detective Alonzo Harris, who plays an extremely corrupt, evil cop who will use his powers to get his ways. The other character in this movie is played by Ethan Hawke, playing a rookie detective trying to learn how to be a detective in LA. His name in the movie is Jake Hoyt. This movie is based off the real-life Rampart Division scandal, which was a group of LAPD officers that were using their power to frame, steal, murder, sell drugs, commit various other criminal acts until a rookie informant found out about this and initially told other officials, and they were caught. But in one scene, Detective Harris's abuse of power allows him to use excessive force to get answers from a local drug dealer. This is the scene where they're talking to Snoop Dogg, who plays the drug dealer. He's in a wheelchair in the store, asking him if he knew where the crack was, where the drugs was, blah 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 blah. They also find a gun on this individual who it clearly states in the movie that he is on parole. So that right there is enough to arrest him, take him in, and then furthermore try to get answers, and of course would have found the drugs that were basically in his mouth. But instead, Detective Alonzo uses a writing pen to shove into his mouth in order to get the suspect to puke up the drugs that he had assumed were in his mouth. To me, that is extreme excessive force, shoving a pen down someone's throat so you can get something to bribe them with. Excessive force by a law officer is a violation of a person's constitutional rights. However, from what I read, there is no set definition of excessive force, but the use of force greater than reasonable and prudent to the law enforcement use under the circumstances is generally considered excessive force. Since the suspect already has a gun and was on parole, that was enough to make an arrest. However, Detective Alonzo Harris had to intimidate him, threaten him, and physically shove a pen down his mouth to get him to get up these drugs, just so he can use those drugs against him to get a name. To me, that's just excessive, unnecessary. You could have booked him, taken him in, got your answers there. The second scene in the film that shows difference between a constitutional cop and an unconstitutional cop is a scene in the alleyway where two men are attempting to take advantage of a young girl. Ethan Hawke's character demonstrates what the constitutional cop should do by attempting to stop this incident and detain both suspects. Instead, both suspects turn on him, and he starts getting assaulted and beat, while Detective Alonzo Harris just watches. Until he decided he has seen enough, he comes and intervenes. Detective Harris then assaults one of the suspects by hitting him in the genital area with a barrel of his handgun, and then proceeds to just walk off and leave the suspects and the other cop and the girl in the alley. Says he'll wait for the other cops. This violated the Constitution in more than one way. He claimed that the street justice would get these men, but these men obviously needed to be arrested. They were attempting to violate a young girl. First, he refuses to even take action by standing there letting his fellow officer try to stop these two men, but ending up getting assaulted himself. Second, he assaulted the suspect by hitting him with a barrel of a gun, which falls under police brutality. He already had him detained. He could have just easily made an arrest. Instead, he had to assault him with his own gun. And third, he chooses to let the suspects go. He doesn't choose to make an arrest. He doesn't choose to call in a squad car. He chooses his idea of street justice, who thinks that they will catch up to him, just ignoring a crime that he had just seen happen. And that is not what a police officer is supposed to do. A police officer is supposed to take action, detain the suspect, and arrest them, instead of just breaking the law, I guess. And another violation in that scene was he does find paraphernalia on one of the suspects, and he just smashed it. So there's a fourth thing that he could have arrested them for was possession, paraphernalia. It just turning a blind eye, I guess, to all these violations, and the way he handled it was police brutality, ignoring, and just not doing anything about it. And that's not what the police are here for. The last demonstration of police abuse of power is when Detective Harris uses a fake warrant to illegally search a woman and son's house in an attempt to steal money from them. This violated the homeowner's Fourth Amendment right of search and seizure. Detective Harris pounds on the door demanding he has a search warrant to search the house. He hands the lady a folded up piece of paper and proceeds to search the house, flipping over everything, tearing it apart. He finally finds what he came there to get, which was a stash of money. He then leaves the house saying that it was a mistake. It's the wrong house, with the money tucked in. She opens up the warrant and sees that it's just a rolled up Chinese restaurant menu and proceeds to freak out, chase him, and the whole gunfighting scene. But this is a huge violation of the Fourth Amendment, because the Fourth Amendment is enforced, the notation of each man's home is his castle. This gives people the security of illegal search and seizures of property in their houses, their possessions, of unreasonable searches without a warrant. Detective Harris clearly violated this, the Fourth Amendment, because it wasn't a warrant. It was a fake piece of paper he used to illegally search and obtain this lady's money, and there falls another unconstitutional crime is for him stealing that money and taking off with it, basically. So yeah, this movie is a great movie to watch if you're going to watch all about police misconduct and whatnot. There's plenty of scenes all throughout this movie where this detective violates the Constitution, and then on the other hand, we have the good detective who, for the majority of the movie, wants to do the good thing, the right thing, but is overpowered by the power of Detective Alonzo Harris, but then finally in the end takes matters into his own hands. So yeah, I chose Training Day, and I think it's a great movie to watch and learn all about police misconduct.